So there's rumours coming out that Saudi will be opening more alcohol shops, one in Dhahran and another one in Jeddah. So what's the truth about this? Is this just some anti-Saudi propaganda used to malign Saudi Arabia? Or is there a real agenda here? And what implications do these have? Now let's look at some of these reports. So in Reuters, they reported earlier this week that Saudi had plans to open 2 further alcohol stores. 2 sources close to the project told them that a new store in Dhahran will be set up in a compound owned by Aramco. And he goes on to say this, that the store would be open for non-Muslims working for Aramco, added the source, who said Saudi authorities had informed them of the plan. Now Dhahran is an eastern province of Saudi known to be the heart of the oil industrial complex. It also is where Aramco is headquartered. Aramco is a Saudi oil company which was originally set up by America but now has Saudi as a majority shareholder, but it still has strong ties with America though. Now this report in Reuters also states that 2 of the sources said that the 3rd liquor store was also in the works for non-Muslim diplomats in the city of Jeddah where many foreign countries have consuls. This report has been shared by other major media outlets, including Financial Times, Bloomberg, France 24, and a host of others. Now, we need to understand that this isn't new. Just last year, Saudi announced that it would overturn a ban on alcohol sales to foreign diplomats and their staff. So the first alcohol shop was actually established in Riyadh last year in the diplomatic quarter. However, restrictions were in place that only diplomatic staff with the correct papers were allowed to purchase alcohol. But what's happening now with opening of alcohol shops in Jeddah and Dhahran is widening the scope of those who can purchase alcohol. If the reports are true, then those foreign workers in Dhahran Aramco compound would be able to purchase alcohol. In fact, in the same source, it also mentioned that the foreign workers with premium residency could also purchase alcohol from the store in Riyadh. These are foreign residents who earn over $20,000 per month. Now, are these reports true? Well, obviously we have already alcohol legally purchased in Riyadh by foreign diplomatic staff. So it's not as though this is something new, something that's only being considered for legalization now. It's already legal for foreign diplomatic staff and also holders of premium residency papers to actually purchase alcohol in Riyadh at this moment. So what is the wider agenda here? What's going on here? Perhaps the best way to explain this is explain how Islam originally prohibited alcohol during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. As many of us know, as Muslims know, that we are aware that Islam created the conditions for prohibition in stages. Firstly, by criticizing alcohol consumption, stating it has harms as well as some benefits. Then it had verses were revealed in which it prohibited drinking alcohol or being in a state of intoxication before performing salah. Now that would in itself make consumption of alcohol pretty restrictive, even if it wasn't formally prohibited at this time, because Muslims, as we know, pray 5 times a day. In fact, many of the early companions saw where this was heading and that they were realizing that there was going to be a complete prohibition of intoxicants and alcohol that was going to come into effect. And then we had the verses of Quran where it stated, "O you who believed, indeed intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone altars to other than Allah and divining arrows are but defilements from the works of shaitan, so avoid it that you may be successful." After this verse, it was clear cut, the prohibition of alcohol for any Muslim to drink, and it became prohibited for it to be sold openly in public. But what Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, the effective ruler of Saudi Arabia, what he seems to be doing is the opposite, gradually normalizing to the society alcohol and therefore its eventual legalization. Firstly, they allow it for diplomatic staff. Then they extend it to give permission to those rich foreigners in that country. And then for regular non-Muslim workers at Aramco, the direction seems to be clear. And to be fair, this is no different to other countries within the region, like the UAE, that permits certain bars and hotels to sell alcohol, whether to residents or non-residents, whether they are Muslim or not. Jordan similarly permits open sales of alcohol too. You know, when I traveled to Jordan, I was shocked to see alcohol openly displayed in shops in the capital city. Now, some might say, yes, but non-Muslims are permitted to drink alcohol even under Sharia law, which is correct. But this isn't about Sharia and what Islam permits for the Ahl al-Dhimma, for the non-Muslims who live under the authority of Islam. This is far more agenda-driven. Here, let me just show you this.
Was controversial. A pop-up bar offering Bellinis and spritzes that, although non-alcoholic, were served in chilled cocktail glasses in the capital of Saudi Arabia.
طبعا الروزيه يقدم بارد عكس الأحمر اللي يقدم على درجة حرارة الغرفة. الصح الأحمر والرمان.
This is what they call halal bars or non-alcoholic cocktail bars in Saudi today. It's clear as day what Saudi government is trying to do with the attempts to normalise alcohol and drinking. And to be honest, it just looks so pathetic. For instance, the idea of the so-called halal whiskey that looks and tastes like whiskey but doesn't have alcohol in them. They're even served in shot glasses. And you know, it reminds me of what Abdul Hakim Murad once said when describing the secular Muslim or the secular Arab. He said this: hand the secular Arab a glass of urine and tell him that it's wine. He will not only pretend to enjoy it, but he will actually enjoy it. And this seems to be occurring in Saudi, this imitation of the West. You know, just as a quick story, I remember asking a few years ago a non-Muslim whether they actually liked the taste of alcohol. Was it actually nice? This was a person I knew who liked alcohol or drinking it. You see, to me, someone who's never drank alcohol itself just looks and smelled like urine. So when I asked him this question, he thought for a moment and then admitted he didn't actually like the taste, but it was the effect that he liked. So for people who drink non-alcoholic whiskey and the like, especially those who've never drank it, sure, it's nothing to do with the taste. That's the reason why they like it, and that's why they drink it, or that's the reason why they go to these bars and cocktail bars to drink this type of, fake alcohol type, drinks. The reality is this isn't about taste or anything like that. This is about colonized minds, that they have such inferiority complex when it comes to the West that they attempt to imitate the West in everything that they do. Just like Abdul Hakim Murad stated when he mentioned about drinking urine and thinking that it's wine and therefore really enjoying it. It's really, really pathetic. But some may still claim, I'm reading too much into this, that these are non-alcoholic bars. It's alcohol that's only sold to non-Muslims, not to Muslims. I tell you what, the defense some people go to defend Saudi is pretty shocking, pretty out there. But look, everyone can see what's going on in Saudi. Have a look at this video.
For Lujain Al-Bishi, aka Bird Person, the DJ Dex began calling out to her during the recent pandemic. She got her big break last year in December when she was invited to perform at MDL Beast Soundstorm 2021 in the capital Riyadh, that attracted more than 700,000 ravers and headlined superstar French DJ David Guetta.
Actually, I've never been to a festival before, and attending my first festival and performing my first big performance in my hometown. This is something I'm really proud of.
Again, pathetic, isn't it? Saudi female DJs performing in clubs across Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. At present, you have to be living under a rock if you haven't heard about concerts that have taken place in Saudi Arabia, and also raves in the desert where men and women are dancing together. That's not to mention all the other munkarat that has been brought over. This is so obvious now that they're trying to imitate everything that they see in the West. Bars, concerts, raves, nightclubs, wrestling, even Halloween parties. What on earth is going on with that? We've even seen things like fashion shows in Saudi Arabia. Saudi is even promoting ancient Arabian deities, claiming that they are just showcasing Saudi national heritage. It's like they're reintroducing idolatry within the land of Tawheed. Why am I highlighting this? Well, if we don't realize what the direction of Saudi is going, then we'll sleepwalk into a situation where Saudi, the land of the Haramain, will become a place full of munkar and evil, reintroducing alcohol and all the fahsha that comes with it, and it becomes widespread in Muslim lands. Therefore, it's our duty and our obligation, because, we don't just see Saudi as some foreign land. Saudi, just like the rest of the Muslim lands, are our lands. These are our countries too, even if we don't hold necessarily residency or citizenship, because we have concern for the ummah, concern for Muslims, and therefore it's our obligations to hold these rulers to account, to ensure that we don't act like dumb shaitans when the agenda fundamentally is to strip Islam away from Muslim lands, leading Muslims astray. At the very least, we need to speak out against this. Secondly, I did a video on MBS meeting Trump at the White House, and yet still some Muslims are under the impression that MBS is playing some sort of 4D chess, using this to isolate Israel in an ultimate game to liberate Palestinians through engulfing the Zionist entity. It's a laughable analysis, yet some Muslims take it seriously. But this analysis, this claim that Saudi is engaging in this 4D chess, is built upon one key premise, that Saudi has sincere agenda for Islam and the Muslims. Because it's Islam that motivates us to stand with the Palestinians. It's Islam that motivates us to seek the liberation of Masjid al-Aqsa. It's Islam that motivates us to stand up for justice against oppression. But how can it be Islam as the motivating factor for Saudi and the Saudi government when in their own land they are permitting the reintroduction of idols, promoting raves and Shakira concerts and other concerts, trying to normalise alcohol with the agenda to legalise it for football fans in 2034 World Cup, if not sooner? The agenda is clear. Liberalise, secularize Saudi, de-Islamize the population. And if that's the case, then how can we talk about Saudi government having any true, sincere Islamic agenda for the Palestinians or standing against Israel? Particularly when we also know they prohibit any Palestinian scarves or paraphernalia, restrict the amount of du'as given to the Palestinians by imams of the Haram, that they prohibit the open expression for any support for the people of the Palestine. Honestly, you have to be daft or a paid Saudi bot not to see what's going on, or thinking Saudi with MBS meeting Trump is anything but Mohammed bin Salman seeking his own self-interest, part of an agenda to secularize not just Saudi, but also the wider Muslim world. He even stated this.
أنا أعتقد أن أوروبا الجديدة هي الشرق الأوسط. المملكة العربية السعودية في ال5 سنوات القادمة سوف تكون مختلفة تماما. البحرين سوف تكون مختلفة تماما. الكويت حتى قطر على خلافنا معهم لديهم اقتصاد قوي سوف تكون مختلفة تماما بعد 5 سنوات. إذا نجحنا في ال5 سنوات القادمة سوف تلتحق فينا دول أكثر وسوف تكون النهضة القادمة في العالم في 30 سنة القادمة في الشرق الأوسط إن شاء الله.
All it is following the West, imitating them in their thinking, in their attitudes, in their behavior, and thinking that this is somehow modern and progressive. All it is just aping and copying it, because MBS suffers from such inferiority complex that all he sees is how to be more like the West. Now, not many Muslims, du'at or scholars want to talk about this. Obviously, in Saudi, you'll be arrested, imprisoned, tortured, and even possibly executed and killed. But even outside of Saudi, Muslims don't want to be restricted from, attending Hajj and Umrah. It's gotten that bad that when Muslims living outside of Saudi criticize Saudi, for example, allowing bikini beaches or the like, that they are being prohibited from attending and performing their obligations and their recommendations like Umrah and Hajj. But I believe it's important to expose the agenda. It is ultimately part of the obligation, part of what the Sharia orders from us in terms of forbidding the munkar and speaking out against the evil. This is an obligation. Inshallah, we will continue to do this on this channel. And if you like this video, then help us by sharing, liking, commenting, and also subscribing to our channel. It's only through holding these rulers to account can we prevent the further normalization of alcohol, the further normalization of evil and munkar that we are seeing, and exposing the true agenda so we can push back, because ultimately the Ummah has the capacity to push back against this de-Islamization agenda, not just in Saudi, but as Mohammed bin Salman said, he's talked about the whole of the Middle East as well. We need to do this to protect our brothers and sisters and protect their Iman.